So what happens when a company that's basically been part of a country's DNA for over 100 years just up and leaves? We're about to break down a corporate move that's way more than just a business headline. It is a massive, seismic event for an entire nation. Let's dive in. And this is really the heart of the story, right here. A company that's been a cornerstone of South Africa for over a century is, for all intents and purposes, packing its bags. This isn't just some line item on a spreadsheet. It's a huge, historic departure, and the implications are massive. And that brings us to the big question we're tackling today. When an economic anchor that heavy is suddenly pulled up, what happens next? Who wins, who loses, and what on earth does the future look like for the nation that's been left behind? Okay, so let's get into the specifics of the move itself. You've got this absolute titan of South African mining, Anglo-American, and they're merging with Canada's Teck Resources. Now, it's still going to be listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, but its strategic heart, the place where the really big decisions get made, is shifting all the way over to Vancouver. But look, this is so much more than just a change of address. This is a complete shakeup. Key South African assets are being unbundled, which is basically a corporate way of saying they're being spun off to fend for themselves. So Amplats, that financial safety net from the parent company, is gone. Kumba Iron Ore's future is, well, it's a big question mark. And even the legendary De Beers diamond business is being separated. Anglo's footprint in the country is shrinking, and it's shrinking fast. All right, so let's follow that first ripple. Every major corporate move has winners and losers, right? And in this story, the first group to see a clear, undeniable benefit are the shareholders. They are looking at a major payday. And just how big is that payday? We're talking about a special dividend estimated to be around 73 Rand per share. That's a huge direct cash injection right into the pockets of the people who own the stock. And it's really a win-win for them. Shareholders get this big cash payment right now, and they get to hold on to shares in the new combined company, which is going to be this global giant focused on hot commodities like copper. For the investors, it really is the best of both worlds. But as that first ripple of cash is making its way to shareholders, a second, much more damaging ripple is hitting Johannesburg. For South Africa's financial hub, this move isn't just news, it's a serious economic shock. Let's just run through the immediate damage. First off, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange loses its biggest, most prestigious anchor company. Then you've got the high-level corporate jobs. The big salaries, the big decision makers, they're gone. Billions in corporate tax and all that spending on professional services, lawyers, accountants, that's all going to flow to Canada now. And maybe the biggest deal of all, it sends a really bad signal to other potential foreign investors. What we're talking about here is a classic textbook brain drain. And it's not just about a few people losing their jobs. It's the high-value, top-tier roles, the executives, the strategists, the top legal minds. When that level of talent leaves, a huge amount of economic activity and intellectual capital walks right out the door with them. Okay, so what about the South African currency, the Rand? This is where the story gets really interesting and kind of complicated. It's like a massive tug of war with these incredibly powerful forces pulling the currency in opposite directions, all at the same time. So here's how this plays out. In the short term, that huge dividend payment we talked about actually helps the Rand. Billions of dollars have to be bought and converted into Rand to pay local shareholders, which creates demand. But pushing hard the other way are these really powerful long-term pressures. Future profits won't flow through the country anymore, and the whole move is kind of seen as a vote of no confidence in the economy, which makes the currency riskier. So if you look at the timeline, here's how it unfolds. First, you get this initial pop, this temporary strength for the Rand from the dividend. But then, things get choppy. Volatility kicks in as foreign investors start selling off those newly separated South African stocks. And finally, the long-term reality sets in as reduced foreign investment and capital flight start to structurally weaken the currency for the long haul. And all of this brings us to the final and maybe the most important ripple of them all. With the headquarters gone and all these key assets spun off, what in the world does this mean for the future of South Africa's most foundational industry, mining? This quote right here, it just perfectly captures the anxiety everyone's feeling. The big fear is that without the parent company's backing and deep pockets, these huge South African assets, we're talking major employers and exporters, could just become orphaned, left behind without a clear strategy or the investment they need. And you might be asking, well, why would they be orphaned? It's because the new leadership team sitting in Vancouver has a totally different game plan. Their focus is on what they call critical minerals, things like copper, which are essential for the green energy transition. South Africa's iron ore just doesn't really fit into that new global vision.
And that's where the real danger lies. This shift in strategy could mean a lot less investment flowing into these local South African mines. Or, even worse, they could get sold off to smaller companies that just don't have the cash or the expertise to run them properly. That could risk the slow decline of a key national industry.
And so this is where we're left. The departure of a corporate titan after more than a century is so much more than a business deal. It's the lifting of a nation's economic anchor. And the ripples, from the quick cash for shareholders to a struggling currency to a really uncertain future for mining, they're going to be felt for years. The big question now is, with its anchor gone, can the South African economy find a new course?